Let's do a short lesson on how to build an MLA citation for a short story contained in an anthology. We're going to be using the Bedford Introduction to Lit 11th edition, so if you have that, pull that out. And we'll be looking at William Faulkner's A Rose for Emily, which starts on page 78. So when it comes to documenting your sources with MLA format, you have two parts. You have the in-text citation, and then you also have the works cited entry at the end of the paper. I've color-coded the in-text citation so that you can see all three parts. So let's just jump into it. Here's a piece of text that looks like something that would come out of a college level or ENC 1102 level analysis, and I'm just going to read through it. Throughout the story, A Rose for Emily, there is tension between what is private or belongs to the individual and what is public or the possession of the group. This is evident where William Faulkner writes, "When Miss Emily Grierson died, our whole town went to her funeral. The men went through a sort of respectful affection for the fallen monument, the women mostly out of curiosity to see the inside of her house." So you can see here the three different colors. What we begin with is a quote introduction. This is where you signal to the reader that some borrowed material is coming up. And I named the author here, William Faulkner Writes, and that is probably a really good way to introduce a quote by using the author's name. Then I quoted the material. Maybe you might paraphrase it. Either way, you can see the material that I borrowed in blue, and then at the end here I have the page number that I borrowed it from put in parentheses. And this is technically the in-text citation, the parenthetical citation. But all of this goes together. And then there's a period at the very end to let the reader know that everything before this is all part of the same unit. Now there's another way you can do this, and both ways are correct. It's just a matter of preference. And here's the same piece of text with a slightly different citation. So you can see here throughout the story of Rose for Emily, there is tension between what is private or belongs to the individual and what is public or the possession of the group. The tale begins with, "When Miss Emily Grierson died, our whole town went to her funeral. The men through a sort of respectful affection for the fallen monument, the women mostly out of curiosity to see the inside of her house." So notice in the quote intro here, I'm still letting the reader know that some borrowed material is coming up, but I didn't name the author. I then present the borrowed material, but then notice my citation. Since I didn't name the author in the quote intro, I have to provide his name somewhere. So in this case, I provide the name next to the page number at the end in the parenthetical citation with a period at the end. So the way to do this, two options. Number one, provide the name of the author in the quote intro and the page number at the end. Option number two, just have a quote intro but reserve the author's name and page number until the very end. Either way works, they're both correct, it's just a matter of preference. Now that's just part one. Once you cite all of your research in a paper, you need to build a works cited entry for each one of those. And you can see down here I have one. And this would go at the end of your paper. You would build these and you would put them in alphabetical order under the title Works Cited. My favorite way to do this would be to use NightCite, and I just so happen to have it up here. And you know what? You can just Google NightCite and it will usually come up right at the top of your Google search. Now we're doing MLA formatting, so you can see over here to the left I've got MLA highlighted, and the Bedford Introduction to Lit is an anthology. So I'm going to select anthology, and I know the name of my author and editor, so that's what I'm going to click on. I come in here and all I have to do is fill out the blanks. The author's name of the story I'm currently looking at, William, and the last name is Faulkner. Now, the title of the work that I was citing is A Rose for Emily. The edition that we're using, as I mentioned at the beginning of this video, is the 11th. The number of editors, it's just one, and it's Michael Meyer. So that's an easy one to fill in. Make sure and spell Meyer correctly. It's not Myers. We're using the Bedford Introduction to Literature. It's published by St. Martin's. It's published, like most works, in New York. This volume is 2016. The pages are in order, and they go from 78 to 84. My copy is in print, so I leave that box checked and I just hit submit. There it is. I would copy this and I would paste it at the end of my paper under the Works Cited heading here as the last page. So there you have it, parts 1 and 2, how to build the in-text citation up here, and how to create a Works Cited entry using NightCite.